In future, when a deadly epidemic has spread worldwide with no cure available, the only way to stay safe was to avoid the sick. During this crisis, scientists discover something unusual in the forest near Bristol. To investigate these mysterious occurrences, a group of scientists is sent to the forest. However, they soon vanish without a trace. Watch the movie to find out what happened to them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates. The film begins with a mysterious scene where some people are seen breaking stones in the forest. They then bury the small pieces of these stones in different spots across the woods. Following this, we are introduced to the main character, a scientist named Martin Lowry. Martin arrives in these forests to conduct research, or so it seems. There's a checkpoint at the forest's edge, designated as a quarantine zone because the outside world, especially the cities, has become unsafe due to a deadly epidemic. No one is allowed into such remote areas without authorization. Martin claims he is there for a special research project. The government is interested in studying the fertile soil of the forest as part of an effort to address the severe food shortage caused by the crisis. However, Martin's real reason for being there is personal. A few years earlier, a scientist named Olivia was sent to these forests for research, but there has been no communication from her for several months. Before her disappearance, Martin and Olivia shared a relationship, and he is determined to find her. However, he keeps his true intentions hidden from others, who believe he is there solely for scientific purposes. When Martin reaches the checkpoint, he goes through strict sanitization procedures and undergoes tests, as the virus spreading across the world is highly dangerous. The people stationed at the checkpoint have been living there for a long time, isolated from the rest of the world. They follow the government's orders without question and show little interest in Martin's research. They simply ask him a few questions, check his documents, and allow him to proceed into the forest. The segment of the forest Martin needed to reach was a 2-day hike from the checkpoint. Without the option to use any vehicles, they would have to make the journey on foot. Joining Martin on this trek was a local guide named Alma. The two met at the house where Martin was staying, which contained an eerie old painting on the wall. This painting depicted people engaged in prayer and sacrifice, possibly to a deity labeled Parenfik. Curious, Martin asked Alma about it, and she explained that it represented the spirit of the forest, an ancient entity once worshipped by the locals. Nowadays, she remarked, the tale was merely a bedtime story for children. It was clear from their conversation that neither Martin nor Alma took the legend seriously. After discussing their plans and learning that his medical tests were clear, Martin inquired why GPS hadn't been used to track the previously lost scientists. The explanation was simple yet foreboding. The network signals failed to penetrate the dense forest, and those who ventured in without a guide faced the very real danger of getting lost. Looking towards the dense tree line, Martin commented lightly that the forest didn't seem particularly menacing. Despite his bravado, an undercurrent of unease was palpable. That night, he stayed at the checkpoint, and early the next morning, he and Alma set off towards their distant goal. As they walked, Martin shared that he had known Dr. Olivia very well, having previously collaborated with her. Alma revealed that she used to receive letters from Olivia, but there had been silence for the last 6 months. By evening, the pair made camp to rest and dine, but as darkness enveloped them, the forest came alive with bizarre and unfamiliar animal sounds, keeping Martin restless and alert throughout the night. Continuing their trek through the dense forest, Martin and Alma encountered a deserted tent along the path. Alma recalled a family who had ventured into the forest and never returned. The abandoned tent likely belonged to them. The realization cast a somber mood over the pair, and fearing the worst for the family, they continued on their journey with a mix of sadness and trepidation. Before dusk, they set up camp again, seeking to rest before the next leg of their journey. However, their night was abruptly disrupted by a sudden, blinding light in a violent assault. Unable to see their attackers and overwhelmed by the intensity of the ambush, they were beaten severely. When they regained consciousness the following day, they found their campsite ransacked, their belongings stolen, including their shoes, and their tent severely damaged. The nature of the robbery suggested that other humans were responsible. Despite the setback, they decided to press on. As they walked, Martin's leg was injured, forcing them to stop. Alma quickly fashioned a makeshift crutch from a stick and bandaged his leg to provide some support. The silence in the forest as they resumed their trek was eerie. No animals, birds, or even the rustle of wind could be heard. Suddenly, a man appeared in front of them. Introducing himself as Jack, he explained that he had seen them that morning, but chose to keep his distance to avoid frightening them. Upon noticing Martin's limp, however, he felt compelled to offer his help, mentioning he had spare shoes back at his camp. Although reluctant to trust a stranger after their recent ordeal, trail, Martin and Alma realized they had little choice. When Jack pressed them for the reason behind their journey, Alma opted to keep their true purpose secret. In response, Jack stated that without their trust, he wouldn't share his own story, but he would still assist them with the shoes and then let them continue on their way. At Jack's camp, Alma and Martin observed that he seemed well established, with an array of supplies indicating he'd been living in the forest for quite some time. Jack appeared content, seemingly relishing his isolation from the world beyond the trees. However, the initial hospitality he offered soon took a dark turn. After inspecting the deep wound on Martin's leg, Jack declared it needed stitches and promptly sewed it up with needle and thread. He then provided them with shoes, food, and water. Generously, Jack also offered them a drink, which was initially sweet but soon revealed its intoxicating effects. It became clear that Jack's friendly demeanor was a facade when Martin and Alma lost consciousness from the drink. Upon waking, they found themselves in a horrifying situation. Jack had stripped them of their clothes, dressed them in garments he had fashioned, and staged them in a series of disturbing photographs that mimicked a satanic ritual with supposed dead bodies. When they regained consciousness, they were tied to chairs, facing the unsettling reality of their capture. Jack, revealing a more sinister side, informed them that he couldn't simply let them go because of the incriminating photos he had taken. This revelation terrified Alma and Martin even more. The following day, still bound, they were taken outside where Jack began speaking erratically about an invisible power residing in the forest. He claimed he could communicate with this force and insisted that their presence was no mere coincidence. He spoke of a shrinking world outside the confines of the forest, leaving Alma and Martin bewildered and increasingly fearful of their precarious situation and this unstable man who believed he was in touch with otherworldly powers. In a terrifying turn of events under the cover of night, Jack informed Martin that the infection in his leg had worsened, claiming that amputation of some of his fingers was necessary to prevent further spread. Despite Martin and Alma's protests, aware that Jack, wielding only an axe and lacking medical training, was ill-equipped for such a procedure, Jack brutally cut off 2 of Martin's fingers. The agony was too much for Martin, who passed out from the pain. Earlier, while they were still bound to chairs, Martin had spotted a blade nearby and whispered to Alma about the possibility of using it to cut their ropes. However, before they could act, Jack returned. Hours later, Jack decided it was time to sacrifice Martin. He dressed Martin in bizarre ritual attire and surrounded him with various items for the ritual, leaving Alma alone in the tent. Seizing her chance, Alma managed to grab the blade and free herself. When Jack returned and entered the tent, Alma, driven by desperation, attacked him, managing to injure him. This gave her the crucial moment she needed to run to Martin's aid. They had prearranged to split up if they got a chance to escape, so after Alma freed Martin, they ran in different directions. Jack, injured but still determined, chased after Alma, firing arrows at her. To distract Jack and save Alma, Martin shouted to draw Jack's attention towards himself. This diversion allowed Alma to find temporary safety, while Jack pursued Martin with murderous intent. As Martin tried to evade Jack in the dense forest, he stumbled upon some familiar lights and saw Mike. Though Mike was unable to help, Martin experienced visions that helped guide him away from Jack. In a dramatic rescue, a woman in a suit appeared and saved Martin from his relentless pursuer. This woman was none other than Olivia, the very person Martin had been searching for all along. Overwhelmed but relieved, Olivia quickly brought Martin back to her camp. Despite the relief of finding Olivia, Martin was still concerned for Alma's safety. He ventured back out into the forest and fortunately found Alma safe. Olivia's revelation sheds light on the dire and bizarre circumstances that Martin and Alma encountered in the forest. Distressed by the news of Jack's violent actions and the discovery of dead bodies, Martin confronts Olivia about her silence. Olivia explains that her deep involvement in her research prevented her from communicating outside. She discovered something monumental, a strange stone capable of altering their understanding of the world. As Martin's leg wound needed immediate attention, Olivia quickly cauterized it, causing Martin to endure yet another bout of intense pain. Amidst the ongoing revelations, Olivia discloses a shocking truth. Jack, the man terrorizing them, was her estranged husband. Although he no longer visited her camp, his absence offered them a temporary respite from danger. Olivia delves deeper into her story, explaining that she had placed sensors and possibly microphones throughout the forest, driven by her theory that the trees themselves might be communicating. The stone she discovered seemed to be a conduit for these voices. Over months of meticulous work, she managed to record and even create a language from the patterns of sounds emitted by the forest. She shares some of these recordings with Martin, appealing to his scientific curiosity. The sounds were unlike anything conventional, suggesting a mysterious force at play. Olivia confesses that both she and Jack were initially drawn to the stone's power together. They uncovered signs in an ancient book near the stone, which hinted at something profound beyond mere archaeological interest. However, the findings led Jack down a path of irrational belief in magic and power, culminating in his obsession with worshipping and appeasing what he perceived as a divine force, hence his attempts to sacrifice Martin as an offering. Olivia's scientific approach starkly contrasted with Jack's descent into madness. She continued to pursue understanding through scientific means, believing she was on the verge of uncovering a significant secret hidden by the forest, a vast network of interconnected trees and plants, functioning like a massive biological system. Alma's mistrust of Olivia deepens after hearing her theories, which echo Jack's bizarre beliefs. She confides in Martin that she suspects Olivia might still be colluding with Jack, or at the very least be dangerously deluded like him. Despite Olivia's intriguing discoveries and her insistence on the mystical powers of the forest, Alma convinces Martin that they should leave for their safety. Martin, although initially hesitant, decides to heed Alma's advice. He attempts to persuade Olivia to leave with them, fearing for her safety amidst the strange occurrences. However, Olivia is resolute, bound to her research and the forest that she believes is communicating with them. She presents a startling idea to Martin, that their presence in the forest was not by chance, but influenced by the same mysterious force that drew her and Jack. She suggests that this force planted the desire to come to the forest in their minds, manipulating them like pawns. Despite Olivia's assertions and the allure of uncovering the forest's secrets, Martin remains skeptical. He and Alma prepare to depart, unwilling to be swayed by what they perceive as mere conjecture. However, their escape is thwarted by a sudden discharge of smoke or gas from the forest floor, enveloping their camp. The gas, having a potent and hallucinogenic effect, poses a serious risk to their health. Olivia, aware of the dangers, urges them to wait until the gas dissipates, but determined to escape, Martin and Alma ask for Olivia's protective suit. Alma, taking the lead with the suit and tied to a safety rope held by Martin, ventures out first. Unfortunately, the toxic gas quickly overwhelms her. She experiences intense, terrifying visions and becomes incapacitated. Martin, acting quickly, pulls her back to safety. Disoriented and frightened, Alma screams about seeing a colossal entity within the gas, confirming her worst fears about the forest's mysterious and possibly malevolent influence. As night fell and tension simmered in the camp, Jack suddenly appeared at the edge of the area, holding a flyer and stirring immediate fear in Martin and Alma. They dreaded another encounter with the unhinged man who had previously attacked them. Olivia approached Jack to converse, and upon returning, she relayed that Jack wished to communicate with the mysterious power of the forest, a connection he believed could only be facilitated through Martin. Under this premise, Olivia concocted a potion that Martin reluctantly agreed to drink. Motivated by a desperate need to protect Alma and himself, both sat under a tree as Martin consumed the mixture, hoping it would somehow lead to a resolution or understanding of the forest's enigmatic forces. However, the situation escalated when a loud noise abruptly disturbed the eerie calm, causing Martin and Alma to clutch their heads in pain. Alma, seeking answers, or at least some rational explanation, confronted Olivia only to discover her true madness. In Olivia's workshop, Alma stumbled upon numerous photos of people, victims of Olivia's delusions about the forest's power. Realizing the depth of Olivia's insanity and her collaboration with Jack, Alma fought Olivia, managing to injure her in the process. She then fled to find Martin, arriving just in time as Jack was about to harm him. In a desperate bid to save Martin, Alma blinded Jack with a sudden attack and fatally wounded him, putting an end to his reign of terror. In the gripping finale of this tale, the mysterious and dangerous gas once again permeates the forest, engulfing Alma. Affected by the hallucinogenic properties of the gas, she experiences bizarre and unsettling visions throughout the night. When she awakens the next morning, a profound transformation has overtaken her. Olivia, who stands before Alma, expresses gratitude before collapsing and dying, as if a shadow has lifted from her. This eerie moment signifies that the mystical power of the forest has now claimed Alma as its new vessel. Alma, changed and speaking with an ominous tone, approaches Martin and cryptically suggests leading him out of the forest. Here, the story leaves the audience hanging, as it abruptly ends with Alma's chilling offer. This film taps into contemporary cinematic trends, where the narrative is crafted to challenge and engage the audience, pushing them to ponder deeper meanings. The story hints at an ancient and awakened force within the forest, possibly responsible for the initial pandemic, suggesting a connection between human actions and nature's response. This force seems intent on creating a new kind of human who respects and cherishes the natural world, potentially using Alma and Martin as catalysts or examples of this new humanity.